Carl Jung once admitted that the most dangerous discovery he ever made was not about dreams, archetypes, or even the collective unconscious. It was about women, a rare kind of women. These were not ordinary individuals. They carried within them a form of intelligence so advanced, so penetrating, that it could either elevate humanity or destroy it completely. Jung called it a differentiated spiritual intelligence, and he feared it, not because it was evil, but because of what it did to the one who carried it. Society misunderstands it. Families exile it. Communities turn it into a curse. These women see too much, too deeply, too clearly. The world has never been kind to those who hold up a mirror to its illusions. Imagine walking into a room and instantly feeling the grief no one dares to speak. Imagine hearing someone's words but perceiving the shadow they desperately try to hide beneath them. Imagine dreaming symbols that later manifest in reality. For such women, this is not imagination. It is the structure of everyday life. Jung understood something that still unsettles psychology today. There are human beings, especially women, whose perception operates on an entirely different frequency. They don't simply sense moods. They decode the invisible architecture of existence itself. They see the patterns that keep everyone else unconscious. They translate the language of the soul while others only chase appearances. But here lies the danger. When you see what others refuse to see, you don't just become insightful. You become a threat. Jung wrote that these women are often persecuted, isolated, even spiritually annihilated, not because they are delusional, but because they are too far ahead of what the collective mind is ready to accept. And so the gift becomes toxic. The mirror becomes unbearable. The woman who was born to guide becomes the woman society crucifies. Today, we will explore 6 dangerous signs that reveal whether you, or someone you love, belongs to this rare psychological type. These are not surface traits like sensitivity or intuition. They are deeper, sharper, unmistakable markers of a consciousness that has evolved beyond ordinary human awareness. Each sign carries both a warning and a promise. A warning of the isolation, the attacks, the spiritual burden, and a promise, because if you can integrate this gift, it becomes not your curse, but your path. Stay with me, because if even one of these signs feels familiar, what Jung once called his most dangerous discovery may in fact be the story of your life. In 1911, Jung described a patient in a private letter as the woman who walks in 2 worlds. She was not insane. She was not hallucinating, and yet her very presence unsettled everyone around her. When she entered a room, conversations shifted. Jokes that seemed harmless suddenly died on people's lips, as if they had been caught pretending. She never said a word, but others felt exposed, as though she could see the fracture between what they showed and what they hid. Her nights were filled with dreams that unfolded like sacred theater. In one, she dreamt of a blackbird shattering a church window. 3 weeks later, lightning struck the steeple of the local parish, splitting the stained glass in the exact shape she had drawn in her journal. Jung documented it not as coincidence, but as evidence of a perception untethered from time. She confessed to him, "I know things I don't want to know. I sense when someone is about to betray a friend. I feel the grief of mothers before the letter arrives. I can't switch it off." And here is where the recognition begins. Many women listening right now will feel a strange shiver. Perhaps you too have felt it. The moment you suddenly knew someone was lying without proof. The time you dreamt of water flooding a street and days later, the pipes burst in your own apartment. That uncanny sense that your body reacts to truths no one dares speak aloud. These are not superstitions. They are signs of a differentiated spiritual intelligence. The very kind Jung said could either transform or destroy. But the story grows darker. Because the woman he treated did not feel gifted. She felt cursed. Neighbors whispered she carried an evil eye. Friends grew uneasy and drifted away. Men who once desired her eventually grew uneasy in her silence, as if she could see straight through them and uncover secrets they thought were safe. Fearing that unspoken power, they withdrew. And so did she. She chose solitude, living at the edge of town, walking through forests at dawn, and confiding only in her notebooks. When Jung examined those notebooks, he was astonished. Page after page was filled with archetypal symbols, images of death and rebirth, of serpents and towers, of floods and fire. They mirrored the very same visions described by mystics across centuries, though she had never read their texts. These visions appeared unbidden, rising from a depth of perception that could not be explained away. Jung wrote in his notes, "She does not suffer from pathology. She suffers from perception beyond her epoch. And maybe this is where it strikes you. How many times have you dimmed yourself, convinced you were too much? How many times have you buried the knowledge that came in dreams, afraid of the way others would look at you? How many times have you mistaken your sensitivity for weakness, when in truth it was an intelligence the world does not yet have a name for?" This woman was not unique. She was one of many Jung encountered. Yet she became the blueprint for what he later called the most dangerous psychological type, the spiritually intelligent woman. In the next section, we uncover 6 dangerous signs that may reveal whether you carry the same burden and the same promise. Jung was precise in his language. He refused to dismiss these women as mystics, dreamers, or hysterics, as many of his peers did. He chose a colder clinical phrase, differentiated spiritual intelligence. It sounded scientific, but concealed something far more unsettling. Jung explained that this rare type cannot be recognized by appearance or personality, but only through their symptoms of perception, dangerous markers of a consciousness too vast for ordinary life. Here are the 6. Sign 1. You read people like others read books. When someone enters your life, you don't just notice their smile or words, you sense the fracture in their chest, the hunger behind their charm, the grief they never admit. And the haunting truth? You're usually right. Jung called this a differentiated feeling function, a gift that strips away illusions. But illusions are the foundation of most relationships. Sign 2. Your dreams refuse to stay asleep. For most, dreams dissolve at sunrise. But for you, they are blueprints, symbols that later step into waking life. You dream of fires before they burn, of faces before you meet them. Jung wrote, "Such women lived in 2 temporalities at once." The danger? First, people call you crazy. Then when your dreams come true, they call you cursed. Sign 3. Your silence exposes what others hide. You don't need to speak for people to feel unsettled. Jokes fall flat. Secrets slip without confession. Those who carry guilt squirm in your presence, as if your very eyes hold a mirror to their shadows. Jung called this a therapeutic presence. But for you, it is often unbearable. Being the mirror makes you the enemy before you ever open your mouth. Sign 4. Your body reacts before the world does. Headaches arrive hours before tragedy strikes. Your heart races the day a war begins. Sleep paralysis grips you the night before an earthquake. Science calls it sensitivity. Jung saw it as a psychic apparatus tuned to the currents of humanity. The danger? You suffer storms you did not cause. Sign 5. You transform pain into wisdom. What breaks others does not end at breaking you, it reshapes you. Betrayal, exile, grief, all alchemize inside you, becoming knowledge you never sought. Jung believed such women embody the wounded healer. But the danger is cruel. The world rarely sees your transformation. They see only your wounds and cast their own onto you. Sign 6. Synchronicity chases you. Life bends in strange patterns around you. Coincidences that others dismiss seem to follow you like a rhythm. You don't seek them, they seek you. And when life itself starts whispering in patterns, you realize you were never simply imagining. You were tuned to a frequency most can't hear. Sometimes the right book falls into your hands at the exact moment you need it. Strangers cross your path and utter the sentence you secretly prayed for. Jobs, meetings, encounters, everything lines up with an eerie precision. Jung observed this phenomenon and wrote, "Some women live as magnets of meaning. What feels like divine guidance to you, however, often feels like a threat to others. The more aligned you become, the more disruptive you seem to those who are addicted to chaos. If even one of these signs resonates, Jung would tell you this: you're not imagining it. You're not too much. You're carrying a faculty of consciousness that most of the world cannot yet integrate. This is why you may feel dangerous. This is why others call you unbearable. Left unconscious, this path can isolate and destroy you, but integrated, it can transform you into what humanity secretly longs for." Jung explained that while most people perceive reality on a single level, logic, sensation, emotion, this rare type processes several layers at once. They hear your words and the tremor beneath them. They see your smile and the silence buried under it. They dream symbols that later walk out of sleep and into daylight. Their consciousness runs like two operating systems at once, the material and the symbolic. Modern neuroscience, almost without realizing it, has begun to hint at the same truth. Some studies show that certain nervous systems react milliseconds before an event actually happens, as if perception outruns time itself. Jung would have called this evidence of a mind tuned to frequencies beyond the ordinary human range. And here is where recognition begins. A woman avoids a road for no reason, only to learn of an accident there hours later. Another wakes with dread on the exact morning her father falls ill miles away. Another feels her chest tighten every time her partner lies, though he never confesses. These are not lucky guesses. They are the traces of a deeper faculty, the ability to read the invisible architecture of reality. But Jung warned, the danger is not in the perception itself. The danger is in the isolation it creates. When you speak aloud what others desperately hide, they don't thank you. They laugh. They withdraw. They call you dramatic, intense, even unstable. Jung named this dynamic spiritual shadow projection, the unconscious attack on the one who sees too clearly. And so the spiritually intelligent woman becomes the scapegoat, not because she is wrong, but because she is an unbearable mirror. There is another sign, one rarely spoken aloud. The body itself becomes a barometer of collective weather. Migraines arrive hours before the news of war breaks. Sleep paralysis pins you the night before an earthquake. Tremors rise not from stress, but as if your body is registering invisible quakes in the psyche of the collective. To carry this is to feel floods before the river rises, to dream images that later erupt in your community, to grieve strangers' pain as if it were your own. In Jung's notes, these experiences belong to what he called autonomous spiritual complexes, structures in the psyche that process spiritual information independently of the conscious will. He described them as an inherited spiritual technology, refined through generations of trauma and mystical pressure. And here is the unsettling truth. If you recognize yourself in this description, you are not broken. You are not exaggerating. You are carrying a form of perception the collective does not yet have a language for. That is why Jung called it dangerous, because such perception doesn't fit. It disrupts the silent agreements that keep society asleep, the agreements to ignore, to pretend, to stay blind. But what happens when you can no longer stay blind? When your very presence begins to shatter other people's illusions? This is where the 6 dangerous signs emerge, and once you hear them, you may realize that what you thought was your weakness, your curse, was in fact the unmistakable marker of a rare spiritual intelligence Jung believed could change humanity itself. Jung insisted, the gift itself is not the danger. The danger is what happens when it remains unintegrated. He identified the first. You destabilize what others depend on. The moment you speak aloud the truth others avoid, you disrupt entire families, friendships, even spiritual communities. You don't mean to, but illusions collapse in your presence. Jung wrote that authentic perception threatens the collective agreements that ordinary life is built on. And so, communities protect themselves the only way they know how, by pushing you out. That's the first danger, exile. Your greatest strength turns into isolation. What you see cannot be unseen, and what others deny cannot be shared. Slowly you stop speaking. You stop trusting. You walk through the world with a secret no one wants to hear. Jung called this the curse of spiritual isolation, to live surrounded by people yet cut off from them entirely. The second danger, projection. You lose yourself in the shadows of others. When you absorb so much of the collective, you no longer know where you end, and the world begins. Their projections drown out your voice. Their pain erases your identity. Jung warned that this leads to spiritual annihilation, not the death of the body, but the death of the soul's distinct shape, and yet, Jung also believed that these dangers carried within them a hidden possibility, because if the gift is not integrated, it consumes you. But if it is, it becomes exactly what the world needs most. This is why Jung taught that the path forward requires transformation, what he called spiritual individuation. It begins with discernment. separating what truly belongs to you from what you've absorbed. The grief you carry, does it come from your own life or from the collective? The dreams you dream, do they speak your truth or someone else's? Without this daily act of discernment, perception dissolves into overwhelm. With it, clarity returns. The second step is shadow integration. You see so deeply in others because those same patterns live in you. The anger, the pride, the need to escape, yes, they are yours too. Only by facing them in yourself can you see others without judgment. Integration turns your gaze from a curse into a gift. And finally, conscious service. Your perception is not meant to be hidden nor to drown you. It is meant to serve. But service does not mean sacrifice. Jung taught women to create containers for others' crises, to hold space, to guide, but without losing themselves. This is how the mirror becomes medicine, not martyrdom. Through this process, the same woman who once felt cursed by her sight learns to live not less deeply, but more wisely. Not to see less, but to engage what she sees with strength. The gift remains, but her relationship to it changes. What was once unbearable becomes sacred. So hear this. Your gift is not your burden. Your unconscious relationship to it is your burden. Once you integrate it, you become what Jung believed the world needs most. A bridge between what is true and what is possible. If you felt something stir in you while listening, if you recognized even one of these dangers, share it in the comments. Your words may give courage to others who carry the same gift in silence. And if you want this message to reach more people like you, like this video, share it, and subscribe to Truth to Mastery. Because subscribing isn't just clicking a button. It is how this knowledge survives, how this lineage continues, how this healing spreads. None of us were meant to walk this path alone. Jung once wrote, "The patient learned not to see less, but to see more wisely." May that be true for you. May your perception no longer isolate you, but guide you. And may this dangerous sacred gift become the way you discover your place in the unfolding story of human consciousness.